Hi.
I am sitting here with the one and only Jackie Chan, global superstar, and he is signing all of these books. Are your hands tired?
No, tired, but I'm happy.
All right.
Yeah,
I'm
really,
so
really
happy to hear that.
How do you feel?
Good. I'm excited. This is the first time I've done something like this before, a live signing.
Where do I want to go that I've never been? Oh, we're thinking about, not thinking, we're putting it in motion. I'm going to go to Indonesia on my Irresponsible tour this year. I'm excited about that. I've never been. And there's been a heavy demand for me there. So we're going to go. We're going to go to Indonesia and I'm going to make people laugh in Indonesia. That's how I roll. How do you roll? I can't make this up. Wayne, you got your Indonesia pants? I decided it about a good 3 weeks ago. You'll see it on the schedule soon, so I suggest you go get your pants for Indonesia. Because you're not going to wear them stupid pants. Where do you think Indonesia is? India. Yes, we out.
So you can see that I'm signing it. This is not some machine scribbling my name. This is my actual human body scribbling my name. So, all right, there we go. First book, signed.
We have fans from all over who have written questions that they want to ask you.
Oh dear.
And they're also going to get signed copies of the book. We're so excited.
Yeah.
So you ready to jump into
Yes,
some questions?
yes.
Hey, we're live at the live signing.
To my mind, the successful feeling at the end of a book is not that you have done everything you could with the book, but that you've scratched the surface.
So it was a wonderful, it was a wonderful experience and a wonderful discipline in storytelling.
I'm going to start signing right now. I guess I'll sign in red. You know, red. I'm a Delta. Red.
Can you guys see that? See, he's a little smudge right there. So if you see a little smudge, that means Charles jumped on the book as I was signing it.
I don't mind doing signings because people really love a signed copy of a book. I know I do. I will sometimes sign a book to myself.
You were only 7 weeks old and ABC really wanted to get the new host in that seat and get things going. And I said, but I'm breastfeeding. And by the way, that was at a point like in 1979, coming up on 1980, you really weren't even allowed to say breastfeeding on the air.
I feel like this is something we kind of all need right now.
My life changed after my leg was broken in 1985. My world changed. I had the world by the tail. I had every material thing you could possibly hope for going for you in your life. And then all of a sudden, bang, in one instance, it was gone.
The only thing that matters is the love you give and the love you allow yourself to receive.
I'm healthier than I've ever been, only because I got healthy when I was like 40.
Thank you so much.
Got it. Hi there. You probably recognize this guy. I'm Ned Rust. I'm his publisher, the James Patterson here, the #1 best-selling author in the world. And
Did you just make that up?
I did some research before I got here today.
We are doing my virtual live book signing.
Live book signing.
This is crazy.
More and more authors are doing this. I think it's so cool.
Signing some of the signed copies that you guys can get at premiercollectibles.com.
You're going to be signing these books live over the next 45 minutes.
Hey, what up, this your boy? I'm watching myself. Look at that. I need to stop.
If you're OCD, how is this panic inducing to
They're
you?
not
Like
watching
all
you.
these.
They've got a bag.
Yeah.
They've got a bag.
I'm inspired by your success. What advice do you give someone who's never found his passion?
Hi, I'm Judge Janine Pirro. You probably heard of my book, Liars, Liberals, and Leakers. I may look like Greg Gutfeld, but I'm not. Actually, this is so exciting. My 8th book, The Gutfeld Monologues, is out. This is fantastic. If you haven't purchased it yet, you're dead to me. But you still have time to reanimate and become my best friend.
Biggest pet peeve? Men that talk to me with spinach in their teeth.
What can I do while at work to help lower my stress and improve my health?
One musician do you most admire?
I love you all, and we'll talk again soon. Take care.
Bye.
Much love. See you.
See you soon, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
We'll see you around the world. Woo!
Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone here.
Bye, guys.
Say goodbye, Mary.
See you in the morning.
Goodbye, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Hey everybody. Thanks for coming to this live signing. It's great to be here with my gorgeous, wonderful sister.
Hello.
Nina, my other favorite sister.
Yes, we will get into that.
I have two sisters and Nina is the best. Of two.
Of two. Oh, really?
One of the two best.
Tied for
first, exactly. Second to none, tied for first. But yes, I'm so excited to do a live signing of this book. Some of you have already ordered it or are ordering it. It comes out tomorrow morning, which is so crazy. And yeah, Nina, you are a writer too.
I am.
Author to be.
That is why I was just so proud of Lila, because I, as an attempt, or has had someone who has attempted to write full-length books and has never gotten close.
You will.
I am hopefully
you
one
will
day.
write a lot of books.
But I was so proud of this work. I know that you put a huge piece of your soul into it, which is really beautiful. And
I paid her to say this.
Oh no. She didn't dictate.
I bought her steak for tonight for doing this with me.
Yes, that is true. I did request steak. It was the one time that I felt like I could. Yes, so I'm super, super proud of this work. I know that, I've watched you live the life that you describe in this book, although from a very young age, because we do have a big age gap, but super proud. And I cried when I read the rough draft and on the reread of the final draft of this book. So super
Get ready
encouraged.
to cry.
Yes, super encourage you guys. And I actually cried at the part that explains the dedication of the book, which is to the other sister. So
yeah, so this book is dedicated to our other sister, Katerina. So Fighting for Life is dedicated to Katerina, so there's me, and then I have five brothers. So we're one of 8. Well, you do have 5 brothers too. We're one of 8 kids. And
big family.
So I'm in between the 5 brothers. I prayed to God for a sister. And I finally got Katerina first, and then Nina. So she's the baby.
I was the leftovers.
you were the icing on top, or I don't know,
icing on the cake.
So Katerina's not here, but she is. Both Nina and Katerina are in the book. I talk about our relationship and just the power of Katerina, particularly our sister, who's not here right now. But for those who are getting the audiobook, actually, so this is the print, the hardcover, but there's also a Kindle and the audiobook. And the audiobook actually has and I can hear, I don't know if I'm supposed to hear feedback from you guys. Should I be muting it? I don't know if you guys can hear that. So maybe I will. I think it's fine. So anyways, but yeah, so this the audiobook of Fighting for Life, which I read, there's an actual extra podcast episode that I did exclusive with our sister Katerina about her part in the book, because it talks about her story and her choosing life for her baby, and just this really amazing, beautiful story. So
yes,
you can check that out.
Yes.
Yes.
And so just as a general question for you, Lila, I know that watching the way that your fight for life and your fight for the pro-life movement has unfolded, even in a personal way in our families, I know that has inspired you, but what are just some specific things that inspired you to write this book?
So I have been thinking of, kind of like you started writing lots of books, I know, and you will finish them, but I've been thinking about writing this book for a long time, and a lot of other books too, but this book in particular, because I really feel like, first of all, this is a fight for all of us, the fight for life, for children in the womb, for their mothers and fathers. So I wanted to chronicle, Life Action's work, just all the mistakes, the twists and turns I've made over the years. And I wanted to provide lessons and a handbook for anybody else, because I get people asking me all the time, how did you start? How do I start? How do I get involved in this fight? How do I find my calling? How do I get involved with my cause? What do I do? And so I thought I was going to just write the handbook of what I've learned over the years, of the last 15 years. And here it comes. Here it is.
I love that. And I love that because so many people, I think, I was just even at Mass this morning and talking to the priest outside of Mass about the ministries, and a lot of people, a lot of their hesitation to join either some sort of movement or ministry or whatever it is, hesitate and have all sorts of hangups about it. So what are some of the hangups do you think that your book specifically addresses?
So I think that's so true. First of all, if like you're listening and you're Christian, you're evangelical, or you're Catholic, or you're involved in your church, or maybe you're not, but you just feel passionate about a cause. I think that's, we all have hangups when we get started. So actually the first like whole section of this book, it has 3 parts. And the first whole section is getting started, because I think that's sometimes the hardest. Like, how do you, if you see this huge impossible cause that feels like no one else is fighting it and paying attention, what do you do to get started? I mean, what do you do when you feel nobody else is doing anything?
Especially such a mountainous issue like abortion.
Yes.
A lot of, social issues are just mountainous, but abortion being the biggest of all.
Exactly. And so, and it looks usually pretty simple, but I just shared a lot of the practical steps of what it looks like to get started, no matter where you are, whether you're a stay-at-home mom, or you're a college student, or you're a teenager, or you're a grandma, it doesn't matter. There's certain key principles that we all need to do to get started in the fight, whether it's a fight for life or a calling or a cause that God has put on your heart. Obviously, I see this as the greatest human rights issue of our day, the fight for life, but there's a lot of causes that matter. And so no matter what your cause is, I hope that it benefits you. So when am I supposed to start signing? Am I supposed to start signing soon?
I'm not sure. I think you can
might just start. I'm going to sign my first book. I haven't done this yet.
Amazing.
And by the way, if anybody's listening, if you've already ordered your signed copy, great. I'm going to be signing it. And if you haven't ordered a signed copy, but you want to, it's not too late. And you do that through, I think it's premiercollectibles.com, and you should find a listing for this book. So you can order that from Premier Collectibles, and I will sign it and send it to you. And I'm going to start signing. So this is my first book. Here it goes.
Amazing.
Very exciting.
So as you are signing, Lila, why don't we talk about the other name inscribed into the first page of the book, which is, again, our sister, the missing sister, Katerina, and talk about what inspired you to dedicate the book to her.
Yes. So I dedicated Fighting for Life to my sister, Katerina, because fighting for life it's very personal. I share a lot of personal stuff in this book, as well as it being this guidebook for activists. And Nina knows, I think that's probably why you cried, because of some of the stories that I've shared. But one of and some of the stories are like what I've seen in abortion clinics and talking and interviewing people, but some of them are personal. And my sister, Katerina, has had such a pivotal role in our family and my life. She's my hero, one of my heroes. And I prayed for her. I was saying earlier, I'm in between 5 brothers. We're both one of 8 kids. So I didn't have a sister until Nina and Katerina. And so I remember seeing her ultrasound image when I was 9 years old and having that on my parents' refrigerator. And that was around the time I first got passionate about abortion and started to get involved in pro-life work. But later on in life, when Katerina was in her teen years, and I share in the book when I was a teenager, some of the stuff that I went through. And I think the reason I share about struggling with depression, I share about struggling with self-harm as a teenager. I share in this book about some other struggles I had. And the reason I chose to share that stuff is because I think we might disqualify ourselves from fighting for life, from getting involved in a cause or a calling because we think we're not good enough, or we think we've made mistakes, or we think, we have so many negative voices in our heads. And I shared some of those struggles that I had because I was going through a really hard time as a teen. I struggled with mental health challenges. There was some woundedness in our family. And I really had to get the help I needed, and then to have this reckoning with my own worth, which I think a lot of people struggle with today. Some people, they tend towards narcissism, and other people tend towards like depression and not seeing their value. And for me, it was needing to see my value. And so I think that's essential for our pro-life fight, is having the right view of ourselves before God for us to make the difference we're called to make. And I've always been proud of you, Nina, because I feel like you do a really good job of that.
Thank you.
But our sis Katerina, and I share her story with her permission. She was very gracious about please, it's for anybody to help them. But Katerina, when she was a teenager, she went through hard things too. And she twice tried to take her life. So I share about Katerina's fight for life, which is a little different than the pro-life fight in the sense of abortion. She was actually wanting to take her own life. That's how low she felt in her soul and the mental stuff she was dealing with. And so I share just what that did with our family, how it forced our family and me too, in my relationship with Kat and Nina, to go deeper, to discover healing from, I think, in some ways, generational pains and struggles. We all have them in our family tree. We all have dysfunctions. So all that to say, Katerina, after that, and I don't want to give away too much, but long story short, Katerina ends up getting pregnant. And this was, unexpected for her, unplanned, and she chooses life. I get to be there with her in the CVS, in the CVS bathroom, the drugstore bathroom, which is where we ended up to take the pregnancy test. And that just, her baby and my sister's choice for life changed our family and changed my life. And
radically.
Yeah. I mean, you can talk about Charlie if you want.
Yeah,
Talk about Kat's baby.
I mean, he's adorable, and there's another one now. So
yeah,
so
she ends up getting married to her first baby's father, and now they have a beautiful second, and it just totally transformed her life.
Yeah, and I actually just visited them, and it really is just a testament to the power. I mean, the power of God's grace and grace in general, and just transforming us into being the people who we want to be. And I think a lot of people, and you address this in your terms of your mental health challenges as a kid, a lot of people feel crippled by just taking care of themselves, that they never feel like they can take an extra step in fighting for life or dedicating themselves to some kind of cause, right? I know I also I followed you to UCLA many years later. I mean, not many, but a few years later. I followed you to UCLA, and something that I'm sure we both encountered in the pro-life movement at UCLA, which you turned into Live Action, the national organization, and I kind of continued as the UCLA organization, was that a lot of people are just so busy and, with legitimate things, with taking care of themselves, with school, with work, whatever it is. But ultimately, I think we're asked to do more. And once we follow some of the steps that Lila lays out in the book and really grow into the people we're meant to be, then we start being able to make a change in something bigger than ourselves. And I think one of the struggles for me is just to fight against my own inertia. And I think your book does address some of that. So yeah, I don't know.
That's so well said. No, you got to write a book now.
It'll just be why fighting for life changed my life.
Fighting for life too. No, that's really good. And I think that's so true, because sharing Katerina, our other sister story, my story, Nina just sharing what she shared. I mean, the bottom line is, like, we all have things we struggle with. We all have passions God has given us. We all have a calling. And the book is designed, and I wrote this because part of our discovering our cause, finding our cause, is reckoning with our own struggles and our own inadequacies that we feel may disqualify us from getting in the fight, or our fears and doubts. Like, with pro-life, we're fearful maybe of what people think of us, or of getting canceled, or, of being unpopular. So I talk a lot about that, and just the importance of finding courage in our conviction and courage in our heartache. Like, let your heart break. I mean, let yourself just feel heartbroken over the injustice. I mean, with abortion, it's a child dying, being killed, and let that rouse you to action. So in sharing, these stories, Kat's story, all of this, it's meant to inspire so that we can each find that courage to stand up. So yeah, I think we have other questions.
Yes.
Other people.
So I'm gonna start filtering through the questions from you guys. So here's one that I think is a good segue off of this. This is from Sam from Colorado Springs. Hi, Lila. What is it about right now that made you decide you wanted to tell your story?
Yes. Hi, Sam from Colorado Springs. Thanks for the question. I've been thinking about writing a book like this for years, but what really just got me off my fence and saying, like, I have to just do this, is because I think our country is at a crossroads more than ever before. I think we've talked about this before, but I mean, even last year, so during the pandemic, I had my first baby. I was like, a lot of trips were canceled and everything. And I already was planning to write, but I saw this is the time to just get this done, to write this book, because This election last year was unprecedented in so many ways. I think the attacks are more intense than ever from a pro-abortion left that just doesn't respect human dignity. The Biden administration is the most pro-abortion administration in history, more than the Obama administration. I mean, Joe Biden, when he was with Obama as VP, he was for a Hyde Amendment. So he actually supported, restrictions on taxpayer funding for abortion. And now he doesn't even support that. I mean, he wants taxpayers to pay for abortions, late-term abortions, every kind. So, but the Supreme Court is changing. There's new opportunities happening. And last year and this year, there have been unprecedented groundswell of pro-life legislation at the state level. And I think the pro-life movement is bigger than ever, even if it doesn't get media coverage, even if no one's admitting it. And so I just seeing this all, and it's the result of a lot of hard work. People you're watching right now, you're probably a part of this already. And Live Action has been an engine for this too, our work at Live Action. And so it's just like, now we need to equip people more than ever to get in the fight, because this is a fight and we can see victory, but we need to all rally together. And so I wrote this book to be that manual, sharing my story, personal stories, Live Action's message for how we can all get in the fight together, because I think we're close to victory. I really do. I think the pro-life movement is closer than ever to victory, but we have to seize it. We have to seize it together. And then also, I don't know, have you read the book Rules for Radicals?
No.
By Saul Alinsky. So when I was a young activist, like just starting out with Live Action, I read Rules for Radicals by this far left activist named Saul Alinsky. And this is someone who mentored Hillary Clinton. So they're very known in like far left circles. And it's like, where's the activist handbook for people who believe in moral truth and, people who are more conservative and people who are pro-life? Where's that activism handbook? So that's also an inspiration for fighting for life.
Awesome. And that there are a bunch of related questions that I'd love to get into. Some that are more policy oriented, and what do you think of the vision for the pro-life movement? So maybe I'll ask one of those, and then I'll go back to a more book related one.
Yeah.
April from Brownsville, Illinois says it only shows the state abbreviation, so I hope I'm getting all these right. I hope I'm not misreading any states. But April from Brownsville, Illinois asks, should a life amendment to the Constitution be the ultimate goal of the pro-life movement? And I guess just to add on to that, what do you think is the ultimate goal of the pro-life movement?
So that's a great question. That's April. So she asked, is a life amendment to the U.S. Constitution the final solution? And I would say, first of all, complete legal protection is the end game for the pro-life movement. So that will look differently. There could be different ways to make that look. First of all, it could be a constitution to the U.S. amendment, to the U.S. Constitution, a constitutional amendment. I don't think that's necessary, actually, if the Supreme Court acknowledges that the preborn already have equal protection under the 14th Amendment, because the 14th Amendment says that we have equal protection under the law and that no state shall deprive life of any individual. And so I think the preborn actually should be already protected as people under the 14th Amendment, but they're not acknowledged as people yet because of the Supreme Court getting so screwed up with Roe v. Wade. So if that can be fixed, we're good, meaning the Supreme Court would have to make that ruling. Otherwise, we're going to have to do it the other way, which is get the states to agree and to ratify a constitutional amendment, and then to get that added to the Constitution. And that's going to take a lot of states. And so that's why the state battles are so important. All these pro-life legislative efforts at the states, all the work being done to change hearts and minds, that is the other path to victory.
And I think in addition to that national end to abortion that we're hoping for, your handbook addresses, from the ground up, just mobilizing us, the individuals, to fight for life. And we've got a question from Rosemary from Savannah, Georgia. Hello, Rosemary. And she says, hi, Lila, big fan of your work. And she's asking a question more about state level. So she asks, which state pro-life organizations are models for those states who have not yet developed strong pro-life grassroots support?
That's a good question. I think which state organizations she's asking, or which states in general?
State pro-life organizations. Although I'm sure.
So I think, the way that I see it, there are some great state pro-life organizations, but the way that I see it is it's sort of a tag team effort between everything from pregnancy centers, which are building pro-life passion in communities and networks, to national organizations like Live Action or Susan B. Anthony List or other groups that are doing national grassroots mobilization. And then there are sort of state-focused organizations that do lobbying, like for example, in Texas, has done a lot of pro-life legislation, or in Alabama or in Ohio. And my mentality is any pro-life work that is nonviolent is good. We need just effort, period. But as far as legislative efforts, I think the end game at the state level right now, especially if you have like a Republican House, if you have a Republican Assembly or Senate, and if you have a Republican governor, you should pass a complete ban on abortion. Yes, the district or the Supreme Court ultimately maybe would hear that case, but the different district courts might strike it down. But you need to show the will of the people in your state.
Start the fight.
Start the fight. So some states have gotten close to this. The heartbeat bill is getting really close to that, but it's not all the way there yet. And so our recommendation is, when we get involved in the political battles in these states, is just do total abolition, because that's the end game, and show the Supreme Court that's what America wants. Signal that, because that's really the where the focus needs to be.
Awesome. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. All right, let's go to a more book specific. There's so many good questions here. There are questions that are politics specific, and then book specific, and then just personal questions. So I mean, you can choose a category, Lila. What are you hoping for next?
Book or personal, and then we'll do another politics.
Okay, great. Let's do a book one. Actually, no, let's do a personal question. Jennifer from Paterson, New Jersey asks, what was your favorite book to read as a child?
Oh, what a great question. Favorite childhood book. So this 12 years old counts as a childhood book. I would say this book called Father Elijah by Michael O'Brien was one of my all-time favorite books as a kid. When I was younger than that, like a little kid, I loved Nancy Drew.
Nancy Drew?
Which isn't one book.
I don't think I've read any Nancy Drew.
Well, you missed out. Where was your childhood?
I know. My childhood was like...
You were always reading books growing up, though.
I was reading books that my parents did not want me to read because I wasn't doing school. Instead of reading those books, they were like epic fantasy, sci-fi.
That is true. You do love the sci-fi. You do love the sci-fi.
I did read a good book on Lila's recommendation, though, that was in the sci-fi category, though, recently, Canticle for Leibowitz.
Canticle for Leibowitz. Great sci-fi book.
Yes.
Highly, and very pro-life. Highly recommend. If you want a good sci-fi book, obviously read Fighting for Life too. It's not sci-fi, but Canticle for Leibowitz, awesome book.
Yeah. When did you read that book?
I think I read that too, probably for the first time 2 years ago.
Okay, recently.
Yeah, so it was a recent read.
Okay, because I think you gave it to me. You must have given it to me right after you read it, because it sat on my shelf.
When did you first read it?
I read it like a couple months ago.
Okay.
When I decided to start reading again. Once I got I majored in English at UCLA, and once I got my degree, I stopped reading for like 6 months. I was like,
I needed a break.
I can't do this anymore. And then I read Fighting for Life. And I read
this book was all she could take for 1 year.
Exactly.
Like, too much book.
Yeah, it was a refresher. It was a palate cleanser.
There you go.
So
that's great.
So
I'm gonna keep signing.
Wonderful. Nancy Drew. Okay. So for some light reading after you guys cry reading Fighting for Life.
Okay, so Fighting for Life, you might cry, but it has funny parts in it, I promise. So
it does. I was amazed.
It's not all crying all the time. Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. All right. How about a book related question? And these ones you might just have to say read the book, but I'll risk them anyway. We've got Hayden from West Jordan, Utah, saying, "Thank you for all you do. I want to be involved. What can I do?"
Great question, Hayden. There's so many ways to get involved. First of all, you can get involved by just learning about Live Action and what the content that we share, the education that we share, and joining our ambassadors program. Some of you listening might even be ambassadors, so you sign up online, and that will help you get concrete ways to get involved in your community. You can join a local pro-life organization. I'm not sure where you live or if you're a student, but I highly recommend you can start a pro-life student chapter on your campus. You can get involved with your local pregnancy center. You can get involved with your church. Are they doing pro-life work, and try to help them do pro-life work. But yeah, an immediate way is connect with Live Action Online, start seeing our content to get educated, and then join ambassadors. You can also get this book since this is about this book, and
more specific instructions to follow in the book.
Specific instructions to follow in the book. So this might help too, but yeah, there's so many ways. I just listed a bunch, but I'm so excited that you're interested in getting involved. And one other thing too is 40 Days for Life. If you're a Christian or a person of faith, to pray outside an abortion clinic, highly recommend that. So there's lots of ways, more information at liveaction.org. And then also if you join our ambassadors program.
And just a quick note on a couple things that you mentioned. Number one, and you talk about this in your book, about starting a group on your campus or at your church or whatever.
Yes.
That is the kind of thing where you don't be discouraged by the smallness of the initial effort, because that was a lot of what you built was a tiny, in your living room. Nobody would come sometimes. That was in the book. Sorry, am I spoiling it?
No, you're fine.
So, and that is something, usually these grassroots efforts, when they're especially empowering when connected to something like Live Action Ambassadors. But if you're trying to do something at the very local level, it is small at first, and it might just be you and one or two friends, but that is totally fine. And do you have advice for people who have, maybe just a couple friends who are pro-life but want to do something in their communities?
Nina, that's so good. You're spot on. And Nina knows, because she ran Live Action UCLA, and there were times, I'm sure, when it was small and you'd have to keep working at it. And the reality is, there will be moments, if you are fighting against an injustice that society has accepted, and that's what's happened with abortion, right? Largely our institutions, many people are pro-life, but our institutions are stuck in the pro-abortion past. And if you're fighting against that, then there will be moments when you feel alone. That's just how it goes. And I talk about this a lot in the book, because I think that's important to understand the mentality of being alone and feeling like you're taking the hits and people look down on you, or you're getting in trouble, or people don't want to be your friend anymore. And walking through, how do you overcome in the face of that? Because I think that's key to being a fighter for life, and it's key to helping end abortion. So, I go through my own struggles with that and journey with that. I know you've had to navigate that, but don't be afraid, because at times you feel alone. There are others who want to help. It's a matter of time and perseverance and finding them. And I promise you, you will find them eventually. I promise you, they're out there. And, there were times when no one would come to Live Action meetings when I was a student. I remember one night I stayed up all night, and I was by myself for most of it, because I was the only one working on the, activism display, these tombstones we're going to put on the grass on the quad to show people the lives lost to abortion. I'm like, why am I the only one at this whole campus doing this right now? So the moments like that happen, but you keep forging ahead and you will build the momentum. And that's what's happened with Live Action. Now we have 5 million, people following us online. I had no clue that's how it would be when I was first starting. No clue, but it was a matter of persevering, and then a lot of God's grace as well.
Was there ever, this is not a scripted question that was, but now I'm curious, Lila, was there ever a moment in which, because the growth of Live Action and that momentum was only possible because of consistent, just dogged effort for how many years has Live Action been in existence?
So over 15 now. Yeah.
So just consistent, and by God's grace, of course. Was there ever any times in which you were thinking, maybe it's time for me to just give it up or move to something else?
So that's a good question. I mean, there definitely were times at Live Action where I was like, I'll still fight for life, but Live Action, this is not working. Like we would have financial issues, we would have staff issues, we'd have legal issues, lawsuit threats. And I was like, okay, I'm going to keep trying to fight for life in one way or another. But this focus on changing hearts and minds through building this organization, maybe it will fall apart. There were certainly moments that felt like overwhelming because of different reasons. And I think those were just moments where just like keep going. And I would pray to God too, listen, it's yours, God. And there's a lot in this book about my faith, because and whether you're a person of faith or not, you know, I hope it can serve you. But there's a lot about, listen, this is not just our cause or my cause. This is, I believe, God's cause. And so I'm going to do my part because I love God and I want to become a better person. And I am passionate about helping save lives. But I've got my weaknesses, I've got my struggles, and I'm going to do it imperfectly. And there might be moments where God leads me a different direction and I need to follow him obediently. And by leading a different direction, I don't mean give up. I just mean the fight looks different. And I think we need to, as fighters, hold our sort of strategies loosely, if that makes sense. Like, you know, maybe you particularly want to write or speak, or maybe you want to, you know, do undercover work. I don't know, you know, your particular goal, or you're not sure what you want to do, but let yourself be open to trying different things and to allowing God to lead you different ways.
And I think what we can see just from, like you said, the growth of live action, which is huge now, 5 million people, or what is the 5
What are the numbers?
Yeah,
so,
what are the numbers?
So live action, we're reaching every week 10 to 15 million people.
Wow.
Which is just mind blowing to me. I mean, we want to reach a lot more. We're just getting started. But yeah, I mean, and then we've got, you know, over 5 million followers online and 500,000 activists as part of our kind of database that we work with. So it's a big, and it's growing, you know, and that's because of you, you know, that's because of the power of our movement. So
yeah. And I think that also is, and it kind of goes back, what that reminded me of is also just back to the dedication of the book, because when you allow God to kind of transform what you're doing and let him direct you, even when it feels like your efforts are not accomplishing anything in the immediate sphere. He does things that you can't imagine, and he will transform things in ways you can't imagine. And I think that also, we can see that from Katerina, from our sister's life, because what was a very difficult situation with her unplanned pregnancy and everything is now just this beautiful life that, like, you can see the power of God's love and life, which are so intimately connected. And that's why the pro-life movement is pro-love and is just such a loving movement. You can see the power of God's work in that, multiplying it. And so I think that's a very beautiful thing that at least I have seen, witnessing live action grow from being a kid, just like watching Lila hold meetings in the living room, and then praying with you outside of Planned Parenthood when I was like 10. And then
I dragged you there.
Then there was some guy who like assaulted you, like slapped your hands like while you're at the.
I don't tell that story in the book.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was like a traumatizing thing for you to watch.
So we were, just to clarify that story, we were doing it was like the early days live action, and we were hosting like a youth activism camp. And so we were doing a procession around the Planned Parenthood and education, and then we were doing prayer outside the Planned Parenthood. And one of the Planned Parenthood escorts, this big kind of older gentleman, so he was trying to get women to have abortions, like bring them in. And I was talking to him like, you don't have to do this, you shouldn't be doing this. And I was holding, I think, a Bible and some pro-life pamphlets. I don't remember exactly, but he got really angry at me. I think he knew who I was, because he was like, you're a troublemaker. And I was like,
oh, she is.
And I was like, okay, well, you know, it's a good trouble. And I was like, you know, sir, you shouldn't be here. Like, these are children, these are women, like you should be fighting for them, not bringing them in for abortion. And the Planned Parenthood escort was very angry with me, like really hostile. So he stepped forward and he slapped my hand, and like all my book and my pro-life flyers fell. And poor Nina and her friends, we were there like standing there like, what's gonna happen?
Yeah. We started the activism young.
Yeah. And you know, and I remember thinking like, okay, this is why I took boxing lessons, because I will protect my sister and these kids if this guy tries to cause trouble. But thankfully, I think he knew he'd already gone a step too far by slapping me. And so he did not, you know, I think he turned around. I don't remember what happened exactly. I think I stepped back and I was just like, stop, you know? And then, yeah. Anyways, that's a story, not in the book. That's an extra story for you if you want an extra story. So
speaking of which, Sarah from Charleston, West Virginia says, congrats on your book. Was there anything you wanted to share that didn't make it into the book?
Oh, Sarah, I just shared a story. Let me see if I can come up with another interesting story that's not in the book. I mean, I have lots of investigation stories that are not in the book. I do share some stories I haven't shared before that are in the book about undercover work. Well, I'll share one thing, a little announcement that's not in this book because it's new information. I haven't really shared this yet publicly, but I shared with some of you a few months ago that my husband and I had a miscarriage. That's very sad news. We trust our babies in heaven and, you know, we have peace, but it was really hard. But I'm pregnant again. So, woo! Peter's going to have a sibling, and that's some news that's not in the book. My next book can include that news. I don't know, but I've got 2 kids now. Well, 3, 1 in heaven, but I've got 2 kids.
Congratulations.
So that's my news.
That's wonderful. Does Peter know?
Peter does know. I mean, you saw him downstairs. So my son, he's 16 months, and my husband and I are our son. And I tell him, you're going to be a big brother. You know, you're having a baby, brother or sister. We don't know if it's a boy or girl yet. And I said, it's in my, you know, look, there's a baby. And so I say, Peter, where's the baby? And then he points to my stomach. So it's very cute. And I say, where's Peter? And he points to himself. So
He knows.
He's learning.
It's
Yeah.
very cute. Do you have any ideas about if it'll be a boy or a girl or anything?
I don't know. I'm totally up for either. So I will share when I find out though.
Maybe we'll end up with the 5 boys and the girls sandwiched in. You can have a little mini.
Yeah, that would be fun. Recreate our childhood, have 8 kids. Hey, whatever God wants, I'm up for it. Sounds fun to me.
Let's go to another question. All right, here's one. This is activism related. Taylor from Henderson, Nevada. I'm hoping I'm IDing these states correctly.
It sounds like you're doing phenomenal, Nina.
Oh,
so.
thank you. Appreciate
Great.
it. How do we empower others to join the millennial anti-abortion movement? From Taylor, Henderson, Nevada.
So first of all, we got to get them convicted with us about the crisis and be passionate about saving lives. So that's education, you know, showing them what abortion is, showing them the value of the baby, showing them the harm done to mothers and fathers. And then once they're passionate, you know, get their heart broken, like get your heart broken. I mean, I talk about this in the book, let your heart break. It's a whole chapter. Then you give them opportunities to get activated. And, you know, if you've already started a student group, that's perfect. Get them to do pro-life events with you, you know, get them to come to events, get them to do activism, pray outside the clinic, do stuff on campus like demonstrations. I highly recommend Justice for All is a partner of Live Actions. And they do actual demonstrations of abortion victims on campuses where they have photographs. We've also had groups show abortion procedures, Live Action's animation series on campus on like jumbotrons or do like special showings. So there's lots of cool stuff you can do to make people wake up. But I would, just get them convicted and inspired and then have them join you in your activism.
Awesome.
And watch some Live Action has a ton of amazing pro-life videos. Another one that a lot of people were moved by was the movie Unplanned. Some of you, I'm sure, love that already. So get them excited and inspired and then bring them with you to your activism.
Speaking of the Justice for All and the images, because the abortion procedures videos that Live Action released are really informative and in a obviously non-graphic in the sense that it's not real, but it's
not
depicting
gory in that sense.
It's not gory, but it is depicting something that is very real.
Yes. Yeah.
What are some? I definitely encountered this a lot at UCLA, and I'm sure that you have encountered this a lot about people who are very opposed to showing graphic images, and I just want to kind of get your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So I think that's sort of like an inside baseball debate in the pro-life movement about do we show images of abortion victims and like graphic images. And I actually have a whole chapter in this book, believe it or not. It's like, am I selling this book right now? I guess I definitely am. But in this book, and I'll show you, so there's a table of contents, but there's a chapter called, I don't know if you're going to be able to read this, but there's a chapter called, in part 2, it's called Expose the Evil. I don't know if you guys can see this, might not be mirror image, but Expose the Evil, that chapter is basically explaining why showing the victim of abortion is so essential. And, you know, it is controversial, but you have to step into that controversy because that's what wakes people up. And maybe they'll be angry, but that anger actually is a sign of being woken up. You know, when you're like sleeping and someone pokes you and you don't want to wake up.
Why did you gesture to me when that happened?
Because you sleep a lot.
What?
You love sleeping.
Not
Nina
like-
always sleeps in.
Okay, actually, I've been getting up to my alarm every day for like 2 weeks.
I
now,
would
so-
sleep in if I didn't have a baby that wakes me up at the crack of dawn every morning. I mean, I might sleep in, but I'm just teasing you. Okay, I need to be nice to my co-host.
I've grown up
I'm
in
sorry.
the past 2 weeks.
You are very grown up. So anyways, if you poke somebody who is sleeping, or if you wake them up, if you are their alarm clock, they might be grumpy when they wake up, but they still woke up. So similarly with images of abortion victims, they might be upset with you at first and angry, but that will never leave their heart and their mind that they saw the truth. And that is what counts, because that might save a life later on. And it has saved so many lives. I talk in the book about that. But yes, I'm very much in support of showing the victim of abortion. I think that's essential to ending abortion.
Mm-hmm. And I think that that's so, it's so true that I think a lot of, at least for me, because I waffled on the issue while I was at UCLA, just because there was such, you know, in a lot of college campuses, there's a lot of resistance to pro-life efforts and a lot of offense taken at attempts to show the truth of abortion. And I'm somebody who's very non-confrontational naturally. And I think a lot of people, just a lot of the population is non-confrontational, and that's okay.
It's normal.
But it's normal. But obviously being pro-life and fighting for life requires some a thick skin, right? And I think, at least for me, some of my hesitance in terms of showing graphic images is the receiving the first wave of anger from that person who's been poked or mentally poked. And so I think some people who are against it are out of a maybe a sense of compassion for people's feelings, but it's meant maybe a little bit misplaced.
I mean, think about it this way. Last summer, the world was poked and outraged and hurt by the image of George Floyd. We watched someone die on camera. I mean, it was heartbreaking for many, should be heartbreaking for everyone, to see anyone being treated poorly. And I mean, you watch him die, be killed. And, you know, police brutality was this huge and is this ongoing huge conversation in America, and discussions of racism and all these things, because we shared that moment of watching someone die, a fellow human being be killed on camera. And it made a lot of people very angry. But I don't think that anger is necessarily a bad thing. Anger can be a very good thing. And so when we show a victim of abortion, we're arousing people's consciences. And there might be angry at first, but I think it's essential to show the truth and to wake people up, because otherwise they're accepting it. They're just going on, you know, as if it's just normal.
Because a lot of the pro-abortion movement relies on euphemisms.
Right, exactly.
And euphemisms,
false words.
Yeah, and they add layer on top of layer on top of layer on the euphemisms until there's no reality connected to the word. So like choice, like what is the reality that's the actual tangible reality that's connected to that? Well, it's abortion, which is a very far thing from the word itself, choice. And so I think those images do connect back to the reality in what is, because of all the euphemisms, a very rude awakening kind of way.
Yeah.
I know we're running out of time, so I will just send this one.
Do one or two more. Let's just do two quick ones, and thank you all for tuning in. So we're doing the live signing of Fighting for Life, comes out tomorrow, and I think you can still order the signed copy from Premier Collectibles. And I'm excited for you to read this book. Thank you so much for supporting it and supporting live action. And yeah, I think we'll do two more questions. So.
Awesome. And really quickly,
and this is my lovely co-host, Nina.
Hello. So before these last two questions, just a quick note from Paula from Algona, Iowa. Yes. Sending love and appreciation from Iowa. Paula Brown, Iowa Right to Life. So
that's very sweet.
Yes,
hello, Iowa Right to Life.
And Paula, thank
That's
you.
awesome. Thanks, Paula.
All right, we've got.
Thanks for your work.
We've got one last slightly political question. This is from
Okay.
Francine in Nashville, Tennessee.
Great.
She says, do you think our current administration will be as helpful to the cause as the previous one? If not, what steps can we take to encourage this?
All right. Well, I think the current administration will be helpful in a different way than the previous one. The previous administration did a lot of pro-life things. You know, I wish there'd been more, but they did some very pro-life things, like they reversed the Mexico City policy, which stops taxpayer funding from going internationally to abortions. President Trump, gave us some Supreme Court justices, which look promising. We haven't seen, that ruling yet that's super pro-life, but we're hopeful. So there were some good things. Unfortunately, Planned Parenthood funding did overall go up under President Trump, not because he decided that, but because the money he did stop was replaced by other money from Planned Parenthood continuing to bill the government. So that's a huge struggle. The silver lining, I think, of the Biden administration is they're extraordinarily pro-abortion. So that's horrible, like more than even President Obama. But that radicalism, I think the more we can expose it, there's a backlash to it inevitably. And so, most Americans do not support President Biden's agenda on abortion. In fact, most Democrats want abortion restrictions, his own party. But the Democratic platform and his policy is 100% pro-abortion through all 9 months for any reason, yada, yada. So I think if we educate and expose and we build the momentum that's already growing, we can use the political disadvantage to our cultural advantage and set it up for some big successes at the midterm election in another year and a half and the 2024 election. So I'm very positive about it. And like I said earlier, the last 2 years have been unprecedented pro-life legislation at the grassroots, at the state level. So there's a lot of reasons to hope we can fight for life together. And yeah, I mean, we all got to get in the fight because now's the time. Now is the time to seize the day.
And I think it's so true that I want to echo that hope about the fact that President Biden and his administration is so rabidly pro-abortion. That could be a good thing for a movement in the sense that the position of abortion through all 9 months on demand without any restrictions, that position, the euphemisms become unsustainable. They start to collapse in on themselves because it's a lot easier to say, I support choice when choice is a very small fetus that's not very like you can't look at it and be like, oh yes, that is a human. So
they hide the child from the view of the person.
Exactly, when it's hidden.
They dehumanize them. Yeah.
Exactly. But if it is a fully formed child, then it's a lot harder to say, oh, that's just a clump of cells. The euphemisms start to
it's harder.
It's a lot harder. And hopefully what we can do is start to look at that and just to say, okay, that is very obviously wrong to anybody. And so now we can start moving steps back and say, okay, also abortion at the earliest stages is also wrong. So hopefully this will start to galvanize
I love that word, use the extremism of the pro-abortion lobby, the politics for the cultural advantage, because that's ultimately going to be the long-term cultural change. And I know we're running out of time, so I'm just going to close with this. And I'm so excited to get these books to you guys. The last chapter and the last whole section of the book is about the future. What does it mean to start over and build a new country? And I share a lot about that, what that looks like personally for us. A lot of it's about our families and loving our families and our kids and our marriages and how we date and how we marry and how we love. But I also share about how if we want to have the culture, the political change, it has to be built on cultural change. And otherwise the political wins are short-lived. I mean, that's what happened. Trump's in office, then Biden, and then, Bush was in office, then Obama, and it's just back and forth. To make it sustained, we need the deep cultural change. And that's the day in, day out work of you, of me, of you, of us all doing our part. And I hope obviously Fighting for Life is an inspiration and help for that for you. But yeah, thank you. Thanks, Nina.
You're welcome.
You're the best.
Thank you.
Now I'm going to give her steak for doing this.
Yes, I am going to enjoy the steak very much.
Thank you guys so much for joining for the live signing. I signed a bunch of these and I'll be signing a bunch more off camera, but you can still order one autographed if you want. If you want to just get the straight up book, it's available everywhere now. And it comes out tomorrow. This is so crazy. I can't believe it. So get your copy. Hope you love it. Let me know what you think of it. And God bless you guys.
God bless.
Great to see you all. So I think I don't know if we stopped.